Hello, everybody, and welcome to my video. No, this is not live. Technically, it's filmed live, but not before a studio audience, so to speak. I'm going to be talking about borderline personality disorder regarding a friend I had, a couple friends I had back in the 2000s, probably the early 2000s, around 2008, 10, something like that. Both of these people know that I talk about them. The one in particular that I will mostly be focusing on has actually told me, hey, it's your channel. This is your outreach. Do what you got to do. So, just so y'all know, it's not something where I'm doing something behind somebody's back. These two people know that I talk about this and they're fine with it, especially the one person who, as I said, I will mostly be focusing on. I'm going to call them Linda and Rachel. Okay. That's not their real names because nobody needs to know their real names. Hey, as such, my cats are getting ready to fight. Um, when you talk about people like on a video or in a book or whatever, here's the facts, okay? And a lot of people, I don't know if you don't think about this or whatever, but when you're going to talk about somebody that's been in your life, that's caused havoc in your life, it's good to change the names to pseudonames. But in all honesty, in all honesty, the people that sorry guys, there's a face off going down here with my cats again. Hey, and the stray visitor cat. And by the way, this is perfectly normal for cats to do this when there is a visitor cat coming in that they are not used to for a long time. They're establishing dominance at the moment. Okay. I'm going to break up this little fiasco so I can continue with my video. One moment, please. All right. It's time for one of you, probably you, to go out for a while. Here you go. Go ahead. Go on out. Go explore the world. All right. There you go, Teddy. You're fine. Oh, my goodness. It's apropos because I'm talking about not getting along with people. So the cat's not getting along. Fits right in with this whole criteria. Okay, as I was saying, when you're going to talk about some people that have produced maybe a growing experience in your life, but the experience was very bad and very memorably bad, um, you can change the names, obviously, but the people, if they see your videos or read your book, they're going to know it's about them. Come on. Seriously, there is really no getting around that. And people have been doing that for years, writing books about their family members or whatever. And obviously, you hear that they're in a big lawsuit because brother says that's not how mom treated you at all. You're lying. You're just doing it for money. Story of life in general. That's how it goes when you talk about things that happen regarding certain people. So there's really no getting around this type of thing. All you can do is pseudonym the people, and if it bothers them, they'll come and hunt you down and talk to you about it. This particular person that I'm calling Linda knows that I have a video channel. I told her, yeah, but I speak against you. I tell them how you abused me, and she's like, that's okay. It's how you make your money, then, or that if that's how your outreach works, then use me because I did do those things to you. I'm not denying that I did. So it's cleared. Okay. So anybody that wants to say, oh, do they know you're talking about them? Yes, they do. Okay. And they're fine with it. It doesn't bother them. They've moved on in their direction in their life. I've moved on in mine. We're all grown ups about it and we're cool with it. They also know that I study behaviors. And it's very hard for me to separate behaviors from a person if the person is the one doing the behaviors. So I'm talking about behaviors of what went on in my life with these people back then. If any of this bears a resemblance to you in the present, and I can tell you this till I'm blue in the face, and I know inevitably somebody's going to come after me and say, well, you were talking about me. You were just using that name. No, I'm talking about two actual women. that I went through these relationships with in the past. Okay. So, that being said, there's my disclaimer. If this applies to you in any way, shape, or form, it was coincidental. It was not directed at you. If you take it that way, I don't know, maybe you need to see a therapist or something if you have that kind of complex about it. But honestly, it's about these two women that I'm talking about now. All right, here we go. First of all, I'm going to be using a video of a woman who is I believe she's a psychiatrist, psychotherapist. I don't know. She's really big in the field, very well known online. Um, I don't exactly know her name. I think it's Dr. Ramani. I'm going to be taking little clips from what she said. I'm not going to show it. I'm just going to play the voice part of it. And I'm going to comment in between because I am old and my memory is not what it used to be. So she will help jog my memory by talking about the traits and how they operate. I will be playing the video and pausing it and commenting. So, commentary, I guess, is what they call this style of videotaping. All right, so let's get on with the video now. Enough of my babbling on here. Hang on, I need to turn it up, obviously, or you can't hear it.
Personality disorder is unique in the personality disorders for how unstable the emotional state of the person is.
Talking
they
about
will go from angry to sad to cheerful in the same hour. You will not see that kind of emotional instability with any other personality disorder.
Okay, so borderline personality disorder, the person goes from angry to sad to excited to happy, all in the same hour. That's the difference between borderlines and bipolars. Bipolar personality disorder, they can be angry, but it's going to last a while, like a few days, maybe a week or two. Borderlines, it's bam, 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 bam. I'm happy, I'm sad, I'm angry, I'm excited, I'm depressed, I'm resentful. And it's all day long, like one switch after switch after switch. I'm angry for a few hours. Now I'm depressed. Now I want to go and party. I mean, it's a constant switch in borderline personality disorder. Bipolar lasts for days and weeks and months of the mood. Okay, that's the difference. So a lot of people have asked me, are you sure they weren't, bipolar? Yeah, I'm sure. I'm definitely sure. Unless there was a comorbid, which means bipolar and borderline, that could have been. But no, pretty sure it was borderline. The one lady, Mary, I think I said I was going to name her. No, Rachel, sorry. Rachel was actually diagnosed as borderline personality disorder. She told me that when I met her. Her family verified it. She had borderline personality disorder. She also had some other things going on physically that impaired her greatly and caused her a lot of pain, a lot of fear, a lot of anxiety. She lived like this. Thankfully, she's doing much better. She has a very fruitful life right now. But when I met her, she was a mess, and she brought me into her mess. The other person has not, to my knowledge, been formally diagnosed with anything other than depression. So I am going on traits of the other person. That is all I'm going on, okay? Just so you know. Okay.
Even bipolar disorder. Bipolar is not a personality disorder. And frequently, borderline personality disorder and bipolar disorder get misdiagnosed by lay people. People who are professionals in the field know the clear difference. The difference between borderline personality disorder, which is a personality disorder, and bipolar disorder, which is what we call a mood disorder, just like depression. Bipolar disorder is characterized by something called mania. Mania is a period of time, it can last 4 to 7 days, even longer, where the person has this incredibly expansive, excitable mood, sometimes even irritable. They can go for days without sleep. They can talk, and not stop. They'll empty everything out of their garage, and you're not clear on what's going on. They'll drive to Vegas with their life savings. They'll spend. They'll have sex. They'll become very disinhibited. But that goes on for days. They will not in one day have a crash. They will stay in that sort of high for many days, and it's quite debilitating. It's not unusual for a person during a manic episode to end up requiring psychiatric hospitalization.
Okay, so she was just talking about bipolar disorder. It goes on for days. It goes on for weeks. It goes on for months. It's not something where it goes on throughout the whole day. Like she said, it often requires psychiatric hospitalization because somebody with bipolar mania may go and shop, and then go out and party and then go have illicit affairs and just totally go off the rails. And people are seeing this going, oh my God, what's wrong with that person? They may call, for help, and that person ends up in the psych ward. That's very common with bipolar disorder. Borderline, no. Borderlines live somewhat of a normal life. They can go to school, they can go to work. They don't have these extreme highs and lows that last like a long, long time. It's just very quick. I'm angry, I'm happy, I'm sad. Throughout the day, in a day, that's what happens every day. Borderline. Okay.
Yeah. The reason borderline personality gets confused with bipolar disorder is because the person's moods are fluctuating so much. But if the moods are fluctuating in one day, that's more indicative of borderline personality.
Well, our founder of MedCircle actually is very open, saying that he has bipolar 2 disorder.
Yeah.
And it's one of the reasons he's so passionate about this company to help people get on the website, sign up for that free email digest, and get the information that they need so that they can make healthier choices and be informed. Because like you said, an expert could decide if it's borderline personality, if it's bipolar, if it's all these other things. But me and most of the people watching, we don't know.
And it's that misconstrual is dangerous because the treatment for bipolar 1 or bipolar 2 is quite different than it is for borderline personality.
That's right.
Okay, so that's important too. The treatments are different. Bipolar 1 and bipolar 2 is very often treated with medicine. Borderlines, they can get medicine for like their depression and their anxiety, but it really does not erase the personality disorder because the personality is who you are. It's your character of what makes you you. And borderlines become borderline because of constantly being neglected. Some of them have anorexia nervosa or bulimia nervosa, which means they can eat, and do the binge thing, and then the purge where they vomit it out. Some of them starve themselves. A lot of them cut themselves. We'll be talking about that more as time goes on. But you can imagine if you are happy for like an hour and then all of a sudden you're angry and then you're sad and then you think people are talking against you and you can't control this. It's very, very debilitating, and it results in addictions to escape it, to try to escape it. The extreme behaviors that you've seen a lot of times online, people changing their name all the time. She talks about this later on. Back in the day, Linda, she changed her name quite often. So did Rachel. Both of them would flip their names around online all the time. They would be like a Christian type name, and then they would be more of a rebellious type name, and they would keep switching it. That's very common with people that have personality disorders, to switch who they are because they have an unstable sense of self. So they're trying to figure out, who is this person I am? And they're trying to be different people to see if they fit into that role. So let's continue.
And the fact of the matter is, you can have both of those disorders occurring at the same time, bipolar with borderline personality. And in fact, in the realm of mental health, that combination of disorders may represent one of the greatest treatment challenges we have in the field. It requires very, very intensive treatment for a long time.
Wow. All right. This is going to help me, and I think a lot of the viewers truly understand it. What are the 9 traits? Let's go through them.
Okay, so now we're talking about the 9 traits of borderline personality disorder, not bipolar, borderline, BPD. Here we go.
So the first trait we'll see is fear of abandonment. That abandonment can be real or it can be perceived. And by perceived, I mean that the person will feel, I've just had an argument with this person, they're going to leave me. So they're always preparing for this abandonment, and in trying to prepare for it all the time, they almost make it happen. You're going to leave me. You're cheating on me. Who are you with? You're never coming back. And
So this is where the false accusations come in. I remember I've told this story before, but I'll tell it again. Rachel always was preparing for me abandoning her, always, from day one. As soon as she decided I was her special little friend, it was automatically assumed by her that at some point I would be gone. I would just give up on her. I would leave her. I'd betray her. And ultimately, yes, it happened. We parted ways, but it was more of a mutual thing, I'm happy to say, than me just being fed up. She would often suspect things. She's very suspicious all the time. It's very hard to have a friendship with these people. People with these disorders are very difficult. And when I say these people, I'm not trying to belittle her. People with borderline personality disorder are very unstable. So it always feels like everything is very shaky. Like, oh, I better not say that. I better not do this because they're going to react this way or that way. I was in a chat room. It happened to be Yahoo. And something happened. There was a glitch in the system where if you typed into a private message, it would accidentally show up in the room, in the chat room, like with all these people there. And we didn't know it. I didn't know it. She didn't know it. So I was typing something to her, and it was so long ago. Don't ask me what it was I was typing. But it was basically about her having this personality disorder because she came to me to figure out, what is going on with me? Why do I act this way? Are you going to give up on me like everybody else did? Blah, blah, blah. And we were having this discussion in private. But here it was, my text showing up in the room. And she was in this room, this chat room. She was actually one of the facilitators of whatever was happening in the chat room, talking to people and stuff. And there were a lot of Muslim people, she used to call them muzzies, in the room. And she started seeing my text come up in the room and freaked out. Oh my gosh, she freaked out so bad. She's like, "Why are you doing this to me? Why are you putting all this private information in public? Don't you like me anymore? I thought we were friends." And I'm sitting there going, "What is she talking about?" Because I didn't know it was showing up in the room. And she just went off on me. And she ended up, I think she texted me or called me or something and just said, "We're not going to be friends anymore because I can't trust you to keep things private, blah, blah, blah." Well, eventually, I think it was like a couple days later or whatever, she called me and she's like, "You don't know how sorry I am about that. I talked to the owner of the room. He's a muzzy too, Muslim. And he said that something went wrong with Yahoo, that for some reason private messages were showing up in the chat room. I'm so sorry. I really thought you were against me and you were trying to expose me and smear me in front of everybody." And I'm like, "It's okay, Rachel. I mean, no big deal." She's, no, you don't understand. And she starts bawling on the phone. "I am so sorry. I would never do this to you. I love you. You're my special friend." And I'm like, "It's okay. It's okay. I'm over it, Well, she wasn't over it, and she had to pour out her devastated, shame into the phone about how ashamed she felt and how awful it was that she treated me that way. And, there's a word that I would say when a person with borderline personality goes like into this shame mode, I guess. I would call it extra. They over exaggerate their feelings. They hyper exaggerate their feelings. And somebody that's not a full blown borderline personality just kind of rolls our eyes. We're just like, "Oh my gosh, it's not that big of a deal. I've moved on already. It's okay. I forgive you." And there's not enough forgiveness you can pour out that will help a person with borderline feel like you really still love them, you still care, you're not going to leave them, and etc. So that's one of those things that I can share as an experience. Okay, here we go.
They do this and they kind of grind the other person into the ground. And I don't just mean in an intimate relationship. This could be a friendship. This could be a family member. For example, it could even be a family member who says, "Hey, we're moving some of your stuff out of the garage because we're going to sell the house." That could easily turn a person with borderline personality disorder into a place where they're convinced that their family's trying to abandon them. That's what I mean by it can be real or perceived abandonment, and it often becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy.
And that's the problem, is that it can be perceived abandonment. I think that's one of the biggest problems in dealing with somebody with BPD, is that you really have no intention of leaving them or ending the friendship, but in their mind, the way their mind and their understanding works is, oh my gosh, she didn't call me. She must hate me. The friendship's going to end. They're going to leave me. They're going to leave me all alone. I'm going to be all alone again. Everybody always leaves me, and they're going to leave me too. And you're over here probably busy doing something, maybe washing your dishes or whatever. I don't remember when Rachel used to freak out about that because I hadn't called her in a couple days because I was busy. I think I had children at the time, little children, and I was dealing with stuff with them. And automatically she was just like, okay, fine, we're not friends anymore. I get it. I know how you feel. And I'm like, what do you mean how I feel? What are you talking about? I'm over here taking care of my kids. What are you worried about? You haven't called me in 2 days. Okay, Rachel. I've been here with sick children. I have been trying to find a job. My husband's angry right now. I'm dealing with stuff over here. No, it's okay. It's fine. I know you don't really like me. I know you never liked me. You don't want to be friends anymore. I understand. It's okay. I can accept this. And then in the next breath, she's bawling and crying, saying how did I ever let myself trust again? I never trust people. Now I trust you and you hurt me. And you're like, what on earth? Literally, that's what it's like. Rachel was very volatile. If she didn't hear from me like regularly, like every day, almost at the same time, she would go ballistic. She would just lose it and think that I hated her. And it was exhausting. It is exhausting trying to be close with people that have this disorder.
Okay, what is the second trait?
Unstable and really intense interpersonal relationships. Now, obviously, this can be an intimate relationship, but it's any close relationship. These relationships often start passionately and closely, and they want to be with someone 24 hours a day. Then, very quickly, there'll be very loud arguments that ramp up very quickly. There'll be intense passion, followed by intense anger, followed by lots of tears, and the relationships always have a roller coaster feel. Again,
okay, that roller coaster they're talking about. I can talk about this regarding the first person I told you, and I already forgot what name I gave her. That's how bad I am. Rachel and oh my gosh. I told you guys I don't have good short-term memory, huh?
Rebecca or something?
No, not Rebecca. Rachel was the second one. Oh my gosh. This is terrible. Oh my gosh, it's terrible when you get old, but it's also terrible when you take psychotropic drugs at one point in your life and it erases your short-term memory or messes with it. All right, well, anyways, I'll have to pick a name for her, okay? I know you guys are probably shouting at the screen. And naming the name. We're going to call her Brenda. Okay, Linda. When I said Brenda, I heard the duh and Linda came to mind. Okay, Linda. I wrote it down so I don't forget. Okay, so that was very much the way it was with Linda. She told me she was the one that was always there for me. She didn't know why I kept going to other friends to help me get through a sad time in my life. She was the one that was kind of like a mother to me. She wanted to be that person that took me under her wing and comfort me and help me get through things, etc. And we went from that and actually meeting her in person and becoming very, very close. We did a lot of ministry and outreach rooms together back in the day. We went from that to her being very angry because I wanted to establish boundaries in the relationship, because I knew from experience that if I didn't set my boundaries right up front, they could be violated. And then I had no right to get mad at the other person for violating my boundaries if they didn't know what they were. So I wanted to set boundaries. I wanted to establish that right off the bat. And she became very angry. Why should we have to have boundaries? I've never had boundaries in any other relationship. I hate that. I hate boundaries. We don't have to have anything that we can't talk to each other about. And we should be able to reach each other anytime we want, any time of day or night, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no. You don't understand. I have a family here and you have a family. And I know that you've said to me before that they feel like you're neglecting them or ignoring them because of the computer. So let's set boundaries. Let's talk about when we're going to meet on here, how long it's going to be, and when we have time, with our families and stuff. Well, She just became absolutely belligerent and angry, and it ended up in a big explosive argument over me trying to establish some sort of balance in our relationship. So it didn't go well. So what she's saying about, oh, you want to be close, close, close all the time, but then it can erupt into this huge angry fit. Yep. Here we go.
This can be a family relationship. It can be an intimate relationship.
Roller
It can even
coaster.
be a friendship or even workplace relationships.
Mhm.
Almost all of their relationships are characterized by this level of intensity.
Wow.
The third symptom we see is what we call identity disturbance. And by identity disturbance, we mean a person that almost literally doesn't know who they are. They might even ask that question out loud. I don't know who I am. And in that way, there is a chronic inside battle of who am I? Because if you don't know who you are, it's almost like you don't know how to go through the world. That identity disturbance can be manifested, for example, in a person chronically changing their appearance, hair color, hairstyle, what they wear, tattoos, piercings, you name it, they'll change that. They might even change their name.
Okay, I'm going to stop there. Very common online when you see somebody change their name around, they may be going through an identity disturbance. They could have DID, they could have borderline personality, they could even be a narcissist, possibly. Not all narcissists will do this, but borderlines, they definitely change a lot. That has been an experience. I've met a lot of borderline personalities in my lifetime, and most of them flip flop from being one way 1 minute to another way, another minute, another second, and it just changes all the time. Linda actually physically changed her appearance right before my eyes. I was at her house. She went from teeny bopper with the ponytail on her head, be bopping around the kitchen. We would be sitting watching TV, and she'd be like, "Let's go shopping." And then she'd get up and we'd run out to the Jeep, and she'd be bopping down the road with her music playing like a little teenager. And very shortly after that, like within hours, she would come out dressed in black, mourning, sad, depressed. And then she would go and put on a totally different outfit, like a nice flowered top and jeans, and have her hair done totally different and be like the housewife type person. And this happened throughout the day. And I remember just looking, going, okay, who are we now? Not saying anything, but just observing it and going, wow, okay, I'm not sure. And then as a result of that, I had to change my personality to adapt to being her child, her best teenage friend, her comforter, which, by the way, she also had narcissism, so she couldn't be comforted. So here I was watching her mourn the loss of a really close friend, and I remember her saying, well, you could come over and hug me if you want, but it's really not going to do you any good because I don't get comforted that way. I only get comforted by intimacy with my husband. And I was like, huh? She's like, yes, that's all that action is for me, is just to comfort me when I get upset or depressed. He'll do that, and that'll cheer me up a little bit. And I was like, so you use intimacy with your husband to soothe your emotion? Yeah, that's all it's for. It's all it's good for. That's all I use it for. I was like, okay, all right, let's continue.
A real lack of knowing who they are. In the extreme, this identity disturbance can sometimes even look like a multiple personality situation where they actually pop into multiple identities.
Yep.
One day they're one person. They'll say, today, baby person is here. They'll say, the next day, they'll say, hey, it's me. I'm sexy such and such today.
Well, in her case, it wasn't each day necessarily. Sometimes it was. So she might have had some bipolar / borderline / narcissism, which is extremely common in these type of personalities disorders and mood disorders. They can be comorbid. It's just the nature of the beast, as they say. Sometimes, yeah, she did go into that baby personality too. She would say she wanted to go shopping, and when she was in baby mode, she would talk in baby talk. She would say, look at Laura, she's afraid of me. Can you believe that? It makes me laugh the way she looks at me like that. She thinks we're crazy. Like flipping not Porky Pig, Elmer Fudd style baby talk. And I remember her doing this, just looking at her, going, "Oh my God, what's going on? What is happening here? Is she just play acting?" No, she was not play acting. This was very real. This was really a literal personality switch. And if you've never experienced it, you will not be the same after you do. You will walk away going, "Oh my God, what did I just see? What did I just witness?" And yes, I'm saying, "Oh my God," because at the time, he was the one I was crying out to get through this time. It was 6.5 weeks of absolute insanity. And it will never be forgotten, and it definitely scarred my life in some way that was unforgettable. That I still remember it to this day like it was yesterday. Very scary time.
They'll actually even sometimes have this sense of that these are different personas that they inhabit, but in general, their identity is really disrupted and chaotic.
Wow. All right, so that's 3. I already feel like 3 is 3 too many. I'm exhausted listening to those, and we're a third of the way there.
Yeah, we're a third of the way there. The fourth is impulsivity. Impulsivity is this idea of acting out or behaving in a way without thinking about it. So that could be manifested by oftentimes rather dangerous or problematic behaviors. These things could be substance use, binge eating, binge spending, gambling, impulsive sexual behavior.
Okay, so let me talk about the binge behaviors of impulsivity. Linda's binge behaviors were spending money like it was going out of style. In fact, she would travel on missionary trips, and her husband would send her tons of money for the people over in these countries where she would visit. Money that they really didn't have for him to be spending. I mean, yes, they did have a lot of money, but I'm sure he didn't want to necessarily spend it overseas all the time when she went on these trips. I mean, I could be wrong, but most people kind of want to spend money on things that take care of the family and stuff. But anytime she wanted something, she would just talk to her husband and bam, she was out shopping for it. She could do whatever she wanted with the money, and they had that kind of money. So there was no problem. But she would go on these shopping sprees, literally. I remember her talking to me on the phone saying how her daughter was having a party and she had kids over. And Linda would buy them whatever they wanted. Just take them shopping and girls, pick out whatever you want, put it in the cart. And they had these carts full of stuff. And I remember her telling me this and thinking, nah, she's got to be exaggerating a little bit. She was not exaggerating. How do I know this? When I went to see her, she did the same thing with me. Girlie, what do you want? And I was very I'm a very humble person. I wasn't going to spend her into the poorhouse, you know. I said, well, I kind of like that over there, but no, you don't have to. I brought some money. If I want like new clothes or whatever, I'll buy myself like an outfit or two. No, girl, you don't understand. You can have anything you want here. Do you want shoes? Buy yourself a cute outfit and shoes to match, and let's get you a purse and let's go have your nails done. And I mean, she had money. There was no doubt about it. And anybody that she considered her friend, her lil friend, as she called me, she wined and dined them. She told me that over the phone. If you're my friend, there are no lengths I will not go for you. If you want anything, I will buy it. You want a car, you want this, you want that. If I have it at the moment, I'll buy it for you. If I don't have it, I'll talk to my husband and we'll get it for you. And when you join my ministry, you will never want for anything. We will take care of you the rest of your life. We will pay all your bills. We will take care of all your expenses. You won't want for anything. And I mean it. And she meant it. And at the time when she was married to this guy, they probably could have done it. I'm not kidding you. And that was how she was. And if she got an urge, she was upset about something or whatever, it was shopping spree city. Automatically go get your hair done, your nails done, pedicure, manicure, massage, whatever she wanted, she got it. She did it. Now, obviously, somebody that is borderline that doesn't come from a well-to-do family probably goes out and does other things with whatever their wherewithal is, you know, spends money on booze or whatever. She also told me that in the past she had had a drinking problem. She was an alcoholic. She admitted that right off the bat before we even became friends. That she had a lot of relationships that were, you know, without marriage, etc. That she did everything in excess. She told me all of this, and I didn't know enough to see these as red flags at the time. So I was just like, oh yeah, everybody's got problems. You know, I'll be your friend. I'll help you through this, blah, blah, blah. I didn't know I was going to become one of the problems as time went on. But yeah, everything was done in excess. Everything. extremes. So yeah, what this lady is talking about, Dr. Romani, she's absolutely right. I lived it, I experienced it, I saw it, I know it.
And when you tell me all these things, that sounds like a manic episode.
It can, but see, here's the thing. With the manic episode, that mania stays consistent
Right,
for several
days.
days.
And borderline personality disorder could be hours.
It could be hours. So they'll act out at the moment. So that's where, for example, it wouldn't be unusual to see a borderline personality disordered individual finding themselves in major financial trouble. Because when they're feeling like they want to soothe their mood, they'll go out and shop and shop and shop.
Like I said.
It's not unusual, for example, to see a substance use diagnosis coexisting with borderline personality, because in some ways they use it as a tool to soothe. So it's this acting out without thinking about it, not thinking about the ramifications of the behavior, and oftentimes it's a way to sort of soothe the mood at the time.
Yes.
But it can be quite dangerous
Yes.
to the person.
And while they're doing that, they're not addressing the problem. These are all Band-Aids.
They're all Band-Aids, but at the moment they're not thinking of it even as a Band-Aid. It's almost like the sense of, I don't want to feel this way, so I'm going to do something. So in the short term, it actually feels like a good strategy.
Right.
Now I feel different.
Yes.
Isn't this great? Without thinking like, whoa, I just spent $5,000 that I don't have.
That's right.
Now, she'll talk about this in a little while, about how these behaviors are driven by feelings, not thought. When we are hurting, like say somebody died that we were close to, we have feelings, yes. But our thought is usually, well, I'm going to need to grieve over this. Maybe I'll put on a sad movie or something and cry. Or maybe I'll look through pictures of this person and cry. But then we know that we have to go out to work the next day, or we have to go get the dishes done, or we have to go take care of our children. With a borderline person, if they're sad, they will bawl for hours, and then they will, as Linda used to say, happy up, happy up. If things felt too down and the feelings started feeling too negative, then all of a sudden, happy up, everybody. Let's talk about fun things. Let's listen to happy music. Let's dance around the room. Yeah, there's nothing that is governed by, oh, I must be grieving. This is why I'm doing this. Maybe I should go talk to somebody like a professional. No, nothing like that. It's just act on the emotions all the time. One emotion after the other.
Yes. Okay. All right. What is the fifth trait with somebody who has borderline personality disorder?
The fifth trait is actually a rather dangerous one. This is where we often see recurrent suicidal behavior or suicidal thoughts. People with borderline personality disorder have relatively high rates of suicide attempts. Now, these suicide attempts may be a way at times, for example, to avoid that sense of abandonment. I'll show you. You think you're going to leave me? And they'll harm themselves. So that will draw the person back, trying to keep them safe.
It's the person saying, if you leave me, I'll kill myself.
If you leave me, I'll kill myself.
Okay, hold on there. Because this is one of the main traits I've seen in most of the people with borderline that I've encountered, is they will threaten to kill themselves. They'll hint about it. Well, what if something happened to me? How would you feel then? Would you be okay leaving me then? Would you be okay ending the friendship then? If you heard that I had this thing happen to me, or that I did this thing to myself, or whatever. They don't always do it. It's not always where they call you up and say, hey, I'm sitting here with a bunch of pills and I'm about to do myself in. They do that too. But a lot of times it'll just be this kind of side comment. How would you feel if I did this? What would you think? And I've gotten to the point where I seem kind of cold and hard of when people say that. I say, well, that would be your choice. That's not on me. That would be your choice. I would not lose sleep over it. Yes, I'd be sad. Yes, I would hurt. And that makes me seem narcissistic and cold. But it's basically me saying, you're not going to manipulate me with a guilt trip or with a perceived guilt trip. Because that's what it is. Now, yes, a lot of these people that have this disorder will act on it. They will cut themselves. They will try to hang themselves. She'll talk about that in a minute. But you cannot live your life walking on eggshells and staying in unhealthy relationships because you're afraid somebody's going to do something to themselves. You can't. That person needs help that you cannot give. They need a professional. And a lot of people have latched on to me over the years thinking, oh, well, you're in the psych field. You'll be a perfect friend. You can fix me. Guess what? It's not my job. Go and get an in-person therapist. You cannot have me fix you over the internet. Yes, I can tell you what I see that you're going through. I can diagnose you or not prescribe, what's the word? Give you a synopsis of what's going on with you by the behaviors I see, but I'm not going to officially diagnose you or prescribe medicine for you over the internet. I can't, even if I've known you a year. You need a therapist for that. You need somebody in person for that. And if you think you're going to attach to someone because they are trained in a field and have the perfect relationship, it's not going to happen until you deal with your inner self. And even then, it won't be perfect, but it'll be healthier. You cannot attach to somebody expecting them to repair you or fix you or always be there for you or be the perfect friend or always anticipate your needs or your thoughts or your wants or your hopes. It's draining. It's not fair to the other person, and it's not healthy for you.
Or they'll call a person while they're in the midst of taking pills or harming themselves and saying, hey, I just want you to know this is what I'm doing. Most other human beings would come to their side. Now they haven't been abandoned.
Of course.
This also can manifest in other behavioral patterns. For example, you might see cutting. So a person may cut their arm. Now that is considered sort of a suicidal gesture because I could ultimately harm them, or a self-harming gesture. So that all falls in that place. But like I said, this can be dangerous because even if the person was borderline personality disorder didn't, if you will, intend to die, they were actually using it as a cry for help, it can go too long. For example, they may actually take too many pills and it would be too late. They may actually attempt to hang themselves and actually hang themselves or strangle themselves. So this is where it becomes a very dangerous disorder from a management perspective. And again, it's often a response to this inner pain that they feel like they cannot manage. It's almost as though in that moment, they want to be alive, but at the same time, they want to be dead because they can't manage that pain. And that's a lot of that borderline back and forth.
I want to take a moment just right there to tell the viewers that if they themselves ever feel that way, to the bottom of this video, there are links to the suicide prevention hotline.
And I will link you
if
to
you
that
know
too.
somebody who may have, at this point, these traits, make sure you go to bedcircle.com and utilize those free resources and get on the digest for borderline personality disorder, because this is always changing. We're always learning more. And the first step is to know about it. That's the first step. That's why you're watching this video, because you want to know about it. Now, the next step is to go in deeper and really keep that education up to date. So when you say stuff like that, where we're actually talking about a potential life and death scenario, I want people to know that there are resources out there. That's why we do this. That's why we're here doing this. Medcircle.com, that is your next step. What is the sixth personality or the sixth trait of someone with BPD?
The sixth trait is something we call affective instability, which is a fancy way of saying their moods are sort of all over the place. That's where we can see those mood shifts in even a couple of hours, going from angry to sad. So it's this affective instability where moods can shift and fluctuate in a very short period of time. So the person will feel for an individual with borderline personality disorder, it's as though they always act in line with their emotion. They don't stop to inhibit it. And that's a big issue in borderline personality, which is almost saying, I'm having a feeling, I can manage this feeling. It's as though they feel, it's like a tidal wave. It takes them over. If they feel angry, they express that anger strongly. If they feel sad, they express that anger.
Wow, I think I have the opposite problem of that. I think when I feel angry, I go, nope, I'm not going to show anybody. If I feel sad, I go, no one's going to know I'm sad.
And this is the opposite of it. So it's that mood instability is actually a very classical part of the borderline personality presentation. And it's what sort of plays into all of these other traits, because if somebody their moods are always up and down, of course their relationships are going to be all over the map. If their moods are always up and down, you can see how they don't have a stable sense of self. So it's a key hallmark of this disorder that their moods are all over the place and they have a lot of difficulty regulating those moods.
Okay, so yes, mood dysregulation is part of borderline. In fact, it's called emotional dysregulation disorder, EDD. I believe in the Diagnostic Statistic Manual. I think it's statistical manual, sorry. And with both Linda and Rachel, they both exhibited this, where their moods were all over. They would like me one day, hate me the next day. They felt I was their best friend one minute, and the next moment, no, we don't even know what we saw in you. We don't know why we trusted you. You're weird. You're crazy. You're this. You're that. And it makes for very unstable relationships because there's no consistency. That's why I recently made a video where I said I'm just looking for consistency in friendships. So I want things to go smoothly, as much as possible. You're going to have little bumps, yes. But with a borderline person, it's not a little bump. It's a huge mountain sometimes. Sometimes it's a hill. Sometimes it's another mountain. Sometimes you feel like you're falling off the cliff, and it's exhausting. It's debilitating. It's troubling. And so with Rachel and Linda, it was always feeling like I was on this tilt-a-whirl thing. Years ago, they had this ride at an amusement park where it was like a platform, a big disc, and you had to try to stand up, and this thing would spin and tilt and stuff like that. That's what it feels like, and it's really, really, it's upsetting. It's distressful. It makes you run to your therapist if you have one to try to figure things out. Am I doing something wrong? Is there something I could have done differently? What should I have said? It's tiring. And if you have a busy life, it's too tiring to be dealing with. And back then I had a very busy life. I think I was selling insurance at the time. I can't remember. I sold insurance for a few months. I worked fast food. I worked as a photographer, etc. I changed jobs a lot. That's my cyclothymic side of me. I would get very restless. I still get very restless with jobs. That's why tutoring is probably the ideal thing for me, because it's something I feel like I can do consistently and not panic like, oh, I have to do this and I'm never going to experience anything else out there. I don't feel like that with this job. I feel like if I want to tutor today, I can. If I want to tutor for a couple hours, I can. If I want to tutor all day, I can. It's putting me in the driver's seat. It's giving me back that sense of control, if you will. Somebody recently said, "You're very controlling, aren't you?" Yeah, in some ways I am. In some ways I like control over my life. And I think everybody wants to feel that sense of I'm in charge. I get to choose. I get to decide. Now, if I'm wrong, let me know. If everybody's going through life and coasting and saying, oh, well, it doesn't matter that that person's trying to control me. It doesn't matter they're trying to manipulate me. I'm good with that. I can stay in this relationship no matter how it goes. If you're that person, please, I'd love to hear from you and hear what that experience is like, because that's never been my experience. I don't feel comfortable unless I feel like I have some say in what goes on in my life. Otherwise, why live? What is the point? What's the point of, trying to have an existence where you're at peace and where you're enjoying life if everybody else is always calling the shots in it? I don't know. Maybe that's cyclothymia talking, but I honestly think that I'm legit in saying what I said. So if not, and if you disagree with me, please comment below. I would love to hear your thoughts on that and let me know how that's working for you, letting everybody else decide what you do with your life. Because last I checked, most people I know that are stable individuals, they decide where they work. They decide who they associate with. They decide what to do every morning when they get up. Not everybody else out there deciding every step of the way. So just a thought from me.
And it's here where you can also see that this becomes a very difficult disorder to manage. And it's also why a lot of people confuse it with others. It's also why other people confuse it with other disorders like bipolar disorder.
That's right.
Because of that misunderstanding that bipolar means moods are all over the map, not in the same day. And that's what you see in borderline personality.
Wow.
They overreact to everything that's happening in their environment. It's as though they're hyperreactive, whereas a person might react to anger with this much of a blip up, a person with borderline personality will go all the way up to here. And that hyperreactivity is the core of one of the big cores of borderline personality.
Yes. Okay, what number does that bring us to? Number 7. So we have 7, 8, and 9 to go.
Okay. Number 7 is that the person with borderline personality chronically feels empty. So they'll often report, I feel like there's nothing inside of me. I feel like a drum. I feel like a hollow shell.
That is one thing that Linda said to me in the beginning of our relationship, was that she felt like a nothingness feeling unless she had that one other person with her, or unless she had something entertaining her. In fact, she said to me at one point, "Girlie, your job is to entertain me. Make sure I'm never bored. Always send me like new websites that you find of interesting information. Always bring me into chat rooms and talk about something that you know that I'll find interesting. That's your job as my little sidekick, as my little armor bearer, as my helper. Your job is to always make sure I'm entertained, make sure that there's always something new coming across my path. And I was like, Linda, are you saying that you're never satisfied, that you always have to have more and more and more? She's like, no, girly, I'm not saying I need more. I'm saying I need different. I need entertainment. I need things to keep me engaged. I get bored very, very easily. And when I get bored, it's not good for anybody around me. Now, that should have been, again, another red flag of, whoa, this lady expects you to be like her little, what is it, that attends to the king and the queen? Like a jester, kind of? Like, you're going to be my little source of entertainment. Tell me jokes and keep me interested, or else the king can just dismiss the jester and say, nah, not today. I'm not pleased. I'm not entertained. This is not funny enough. You know, I should have seen that coming. But back then, I didn't know anything about narcissism. I didn't know anything about borderlines. I did not know that this was one of the traits of somebody with BPD, was constantly needing something new and entertaining to keep them feeling like they have a sense of self. I think it's more in the narcissist, but it might be part in the borderline. I'm not really sure, because she had mixes of traits, Linda did. I just remember always feeling like I always had to be on for this person. I could not have a down day. I could not be sick, God forbid, because they needed me. And because I was slightly codependent, I may be still a little bit codependent, but I was very codependent back then. Not slightly, very codependent. I had a need to be needed. So the fact that this person was saying, oh, it's your job to do this for me, entertain me, send me web links, send me this, send me that, sing me a song, it made me feel needed. And it fed me. So it was like a sick disorder feeding a sick disorder. They call this the dance of codependency. And it was a narcissistic borderline person feeding the needs by making me feel needed of a person at the time who was codependent and slightly borderline myself. So back and forth it went, a little sick dance going on. You send me interesting things and I feel good about myself, but I can dismiss you when I'm not entertained anymore. And you can feel garbage about yourself, and you can feel like you failed and feel rejected and abandoned. It all played into each other. I'm very thankful that I got help for all my issues. Seriously. Although some people say I'm still having issues, it's possible, but it could be some of the other stuff going on in my life. Who knows? Anyway, continuing.
Now, if anyone feels empty, what do you think they want to do?
Fill it up.
They want to fill that emptiness up. And for a person with borderline personality disorder, that filling up either happens through other people or inappropriate ways of regulating it, like shopping, spending, eating, something to fill in that sense of emptiness. But imagine that the psyche of a person with borderline personality disorder almost has a little hole in the bottom. So whatever they put in is coming right out. So they're always struggling with that sense of, I need to feel whole, I need to feel whole. And they look to the outside world to fill them. Whereas for the rest of us, we do feel whole inside. There may be days that are harder for us, but we feel a whole sense of it. If something, imagine like an endoskeleton, like something that supports us from the inside. If we don't have that, we collapse. Mm-hmm. So the person with borderline personality, it's as though they sometimes don't fully have that psychological skeleton within them. So they often do feel as though they're collapsing and they feel empty. It's a very panic-inducing feeling for them too.
It sounds.
So that makes sense. I'm glad she put it that way. Like an endoskeleton is missing. Like you don't have that core inside of you holding you together when you have BPD. So therefore you have to have everybody outside approving you or entertaining you or validating you, because you feel like you're just going to crumble if you don't get this outside stimulus always coming in. Whereas for me, I don't need that. I feel very strong inside. And to people that have that sense of emptiness, I'm a threat, because I feel very good about myself. And I like myself, and I feel confident in myself. And I don't need other people telling me constantly, oh, you're wonderful. Oh, that was a great song. Oh, wow, I'm amazed by you. Even though it may seem like that, because on the internet, it looks like everybody does that. You know, they go through and heart the comments, and, you know, they need this approval. It's nice to have approval. I won't say I don't like approval. I prefer it over disapproval. But honestly, every day when I wake up, I decide, hey, I think I'm going to tutor today. Okay, I need to take my husband to work. All right, I'm going to go feed the pets. There's nobody controlling me or saying, hey, way to go. You got the pets fed on time. That was brilliant how you made that song, Laura. Oh my gosh, that was so impressive. There are people saying it, but I mean, I don't need that. So if you want to test me, just stop complimenting me. I will be fine, honestly. It's not a need. It's an appreciative thing. I love it. I love being told that I sang a song well, you liked my dance, you want to try to learn yourself. But it's not something that I can't wake up in the morning because nobody's approving my videos. Nobody's telling me I'm wonderful. Nobody's telling me they want to be my friend. No, 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 no. If anything, people accuse me of being narcissistic because I don't have the need to be needed like that. I just don't. And if that's narcissistic versus borderline, I think I prefer being narcissistic, honestly, because it's a better sense of security, feeling like you don't need everybody else's validation constantly and their constant compliments and approval to be somebody. So, yeah, if that's the case, call me narcissistic and glad I am. I don't think that's what narcissism is. Anyways, I'm just being facetious, but truly, it's a better feeling of not always wanting everybody else to tell you what the next move is that you need to make, or not wanting everybody to approve you before you can feel good about yourself.
Like it. Number 8 is another symptom that causes a lot of interpersonal difficulty because it's manifested by inappropriate and intense shows of anger. So when anything frustrates them, and it can even be what seems like a very small, slight kind of thing by other people, they will blow up. And not just verbally, but quite frequently physically. They'll throw things, they'll become physically combative, they'll become assaultive, but they'll scream and yell, and the show of anger happens so quickly, and that's what throws people off. It's very quick, and it's very intense, that it terrifies everyone around them. Adults, children, family members. And so as a result, people will say because of this particular symptom, they often walk on eggshells around the person with borderline personality because they're so afraid of angering them, and that will be this big disproportionate volcano of anger. So over time, everyone is just like being very, very careful around them. But the fact of the matter is, in fact, it's beautifully said by some of the researchers in this field that people with borderline personality disorder have this really, really thin skin. So they feel everything. And they overfeel it as a result. And so they become hypersensitive to all of these stimuli in their environment. And more often than not, they react with anger.
Okay, he's going to talk in a minute. But so when somebody smacks you like this, you don't really feel it. It's not a big deal. But what if when they hit you like this, you feel it like that? You're going to react. You're going to be like, whoa, hey, stop it. Knock it off, especially if it's repeated. And to a borderline, any type of feeling that they even perceive as a large attack on them, they're going to freak out and spaz out over and just absolutely explode. So she's right. Everybody walks on eggshells around somebody with BPD that has this explosive problem, which is why if you have BPD, you need to be seeing a therapist like on a regular basis, weekly if possible, because you are greatly affecting the people around you to not be able to be themselves. They have to walk very carefully around you. They have to tread very lightly lest they trigger something and you are hit the wrong button and you start freaking out thinking they're going to leave you, abandon you, they're talking against you, they're, plotting against you. You need to get help, and not online. I've always said, don't come to me. I'm not an in-person therapist. I'm not even a therapist. I've said that from the beginning, and yet I've been accused of, well, you're diagnosing people. Okay, I have a master's degree. I can. If you come to me and say, hey, what do you think is wrong with me? I can say, well, I think this might be the case. There's nothing wrong with that. People do it all the time. In fact, life coaches can actually say that. And then you need to go to an in-person therapist and verify it. And if they say, no, you're not, then you're not. I guess if you trust their judgment, or if you still think something's wrong, then go get a second opinion. There's no, perfect thing. And we're in the world we live in. You can find out what you need to find out about yourself and go with it, or not believe it and go somewhere else. But yeah, their anger is over the top, just ridiculous over little things, because a little thing to them feels huge. And therefore it is very difficult to remain in relationships with people that have this, especially the extreme form of it. Because even the slightest little thing you do wrong, you say something the wrong way, or they think you said something the wrong way, will end up in a humongous explosion.
I've seen that reaction from pets. Pets who get around a certain person and immediately their body language changes.
Yeah.
And I said, what is going on with this dog? And I said, oh, well, you know, Mark just freaks out over the littlest thing. So when the Rover's around, he gets really nervous. You know, picking up on that.
Yeah.
I don't know what he's going to do because it's so the slightest thing can happen.
So you could see now, jump that to a person. And for a person, that can happen in all situations. Then what we see on the back end of this is that after a person with borderline personality has these strong shows of anger, they feel really regretful about it. They feel bad about
the borderline personality disorder, the person who's been diagnosed with that, when they have these bursts of anger and they come off of that, they feel remorseful.
Not only remorseful, then they're terrified because they're like, everyone's going to abandon me now.
Yeah.
You see how it becomes a cycle. It's a huge cycle. So there's a lot of embarrassment, humiliation, frustration with themselves. And then what they do, that anger they had out, now they have it at themselves. They get angry at themselves. And what could happen then? A greater likelihood of self-harm. So what borderline personality is, it's lots of emotional loops that keep playing out to the detriment of the person with the disorder as well as the people around.
And on a small timeline. I mean, within a day or so.
Oh, within an hour.
Oh, my gosh.
And you don't know what's going to set the person off. It could be a glance that's the wrong way. It could be missing the color of their dress or noticing the color of their dress. You just don't know. And this is why for family members or loved ones or co-workers of individuals with borderline personality disorder, they often don't know if they're coming or going. And they feel like they're living in an alternate universe, and they often blame themselves. And how could I do this differently? The answer is there's not much you can do.
Well, we're going to talk about some things that they can do, or at least cope and survive through this in a little bit. But what is the final trait of someone who has BPD?
This last trait is actually relatively severe when we do see it. The technical term for it is transient stress-induced paranoid ideation, other psychotic symptomatology, or even dissociative symptoms.
I have no idea what you just said.
It's a fancy way of saying that under stress, particularly significant stress from time to time, a person with borderline personality disorder may experience frankly paranoid symptoms, really believe other people are out to get them or harm them, a sense of conspiracy. They may actually hear voices, but the voices are very much negative and harmful, and they're scared of them. So they'll literally look psychotic. And in fact, if they were seen at that moment in time, a mental health practitioner might actually think they're psychotic. It's just they're skirting the surface of it.
What do you mean they look psychotic?
They look like they've broken off from reality. That they almost look like they're delusional.
They're saying, I see people.
It might very well be that, I hear my mother's voice. It's talking to me. She hates me. Why does she hate me? Or it's that everyone's out to get me, or I know it. Something terrible is about to happen. That kind of thing. It's they're very firm in their belief. In addition, included in this last trait or symptom is this idea that people with borderline personality disorder can sometimes experience what we call dissociative identity or symptoms of dissociation. In those cases, they may actually break off and start behaving like a child, and you're convinced they're a child. Because of that, when we see that dissociative pattern, when I've seen it clinically, I've seen an adult woman in my office literally take on the posture of a 4-year-old child. This was years and years ago, but it will always stay with me that, wow, she just became something else. And it was then, in that moment, I learned about how borderline personality disorder can look a lot like dissociative identity disorder, something that's popularly termed multiple personality disorder. Because under severe enough stress, you will see them dissociate into what feels like another personality, but it's all subsumed under the borderline personality disorder, and it requires a lot of assessment to differentiate.
Recently, I interviewed a woman named Encina who has 11 personalities. During that interview, we'll link to it below this video, she went into one of her alters, which was a 3-year-old girl.
Okay, so I'm going to end it there. I've got to go take my husband to work. But if this was useful to you to learn about the traits of borderline personality disorder, let me know in the comments below. I'm trying to get back into topical studies, and anybody that wants to jump on me about, well, if you know so much about it and you're so trained in it, why are you using somebody else's video? 3 words: because I can. These people are experts, and they did an interview, and I found it interesting, and I'm using it to explain some of the things I've been through and what I've experienced and what I know about it. So if that offends you, then there are other channels that you might find more interesting. Click off of mine and go there. All right. This has been the 9 traits of borderline personality disorder with the help of this video that I used. I will post below shortly when I get back from dropping my husband off, where you can find the suicide prevention helpline. So we will be talking to you on the next video. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. And remember, eyes wide open, moving forward.